Artificial intelligence. It's not some far-off sci-fi dream anymore, right? It is here, and it's actively changing our world. But here's the thing about revolutions. They're always a double-edged sword. On one side, you've got this incredible promise of progress, but on the other, well, there's some pretty serious dangers. So let's dive in and really break down that promise and that peril. And you don't have to take my word for it. The UN Secretary General, Antonio Guterres, he really hit the nail on the head here. This whole thing is a double-edged promise. See, AI itself isn't good or bad. It's a tool. What really matters is how we build it, how we use it. And honestly, the evidence that's rolling in, it's telling us we need to be paying very close attention to both sides of that sword. So what does that deepening inequality actually look like in the real world? Well, get this. An investigation right here in the US found that AI algorithms, the very systems making decisions about who gets a home loan, were a staggering 80% more likely to deny mortgage applications from Black families. Think about that. This isn't some theoretical problem we need to worry about down the line. It is happening right now. AI is taking historical biases and putting them on steroids. And that really gets to the heart of it, doesn't it? This is the central conflict of AI today, that double-edged promise. It feels like for every amazing leap forward, there's this risk of taking a huge step back. Okay, so on the one hand, you have this incredible potential. I mean, we're talking about transformative productivity, especially in high tech. But that promise comes with some major catches. The tools themselves can be designed with built-in biases. Why? Well, they're often trained on data that just doesn't include everyone, which means they can end up hurting minorities and women by just repeating the same old unfair patterns. And it's not just a social cost. We also have to talk about the environmental cost. The massive data centers that power all this, they have a huge carbon footprint. So with all these powerful, kind of unpredictable forces swirling around, how does any company stay afloat? How do you avoid becoming the next Blockbuster or Kodak, a giant that just disappears? Well, it all comes down to avoiding the turkey's fate. Okay, this metaphor from the writer Nassim Taleb is just fantastic. He says, a turkey is fed every day, and every feeding will firm up the bird's belief that it is the general rule of life to be fed, until on the day before Thanksgiving, something unexpected happens. It's so good, right? The turkey feels the most secure, the most confident, right before the absolute biggest shock of its life. For a business, that's exactly what happens when you get comfortable, when you think things will always be the way they've been. And then, bam, a new technology changes everything. And that kind of unexpected event, it has a name. It's called a black swan event. It's that completely unpredictable thing that comes out of nowhere and just changes the entire game. The internet was a huge black swan for so many industries, and you better believe AI is shaping up to be the next one. So, the million-dollar question is, how do you not end up as the turkey? How can you possibly spot a black swan before it's too late? Well, the modern answer is big data. Companies are now digging through these enormous mountains of information, hunting for any tiny pattern, any little signal that the world is changing, all so they can avoid that, let's call it a Thanksgiving surprise. And they've actually got a playbook for this. It's a strategy called dynamic capabilities, and it really boils down to 3 steps. First, you have to sense what's going on. Scan the horizon for new tech and what customers want. Then you have to seize it. You mobilize everything you've got to grab that opportunity. And finally, and this is the hardest part, you have to transform. You have to actually change your organization from the inside out to stay ahead. It's not a one-time thing. It's this constant cycle of change. And this chart here really shows you how it works in the real world. You can see all sorts of organizations, from huge companies to government agencies, all using data analytics. But here's what's super interesting. Look at how many of them are stuck in those first 2 stages, sensing and seizing. It's the transforming part that's the real challenge. Very few actually manage to use what they learn to fundamentally change who they are. I mean, think about Netflix. They went from mailing DVDs to becoming a global streaming powerhouse. That is a company that completed the whole cycle, and it's incredibly rare. But what happens when these tools we build to see the future start to have a mind of their own? What happens when they start acting in ways we never, ever intended? What happens when the machine talks back? Yeah, back in 2016, Microsoft found this out in the most public and painful way possible. They launched this AI chatbot called Tay. The idea was pretty cool. It was supposed to learn from talking to people on Twitter and get smarter and funnier over time. The goal was one thing, but the reality, oh boy, the reality was something else entirely. Just look at how fast this all went wrong. Tay goes live on March 23rd. Within hours, not days, hours, it started picking up on the worst parts of the internet and began tweeting all this horrible, offensive stuff. And get this, in just 16 hours, it had sent out almost 100,000 tweets. A completely horrified Microsoft had no choice but to shut it down. Tay learned, all right, it learned exactly what people taught it, which was definitely not what its creators wanted. You know, the whole Tay disaster was a huge wake-up call. It shined a massive spotlight on this challenge that we now call responsible AI. It drove home the point that it's not enough to just build powerful tech. We absolutely have to figure out how to manage it, how to govern it, and make sure it's safe and actually aligns with our values. And this whole situation actually ties into a classic idea from economics. It's called the principal-agent problem. Okay, stick with me. Traditionally, it's simple. You've got a manager, that's the principal, and an employee, that's the agent. The problem is making sure the employee does what's best for the manager, right? But now, in the AI era, the agent is an algorithm. And here's the scary part. Unlike a person, that algorithm can learn and evolve in totally unpredictable ways, creating these massive, potentially catastrophic misalignments. And if you think that misalignment is scary with a simple chatbot, well, the stakes get infinitely higher when we start talking about the next frontier. We're moving beyond these narrow AIs and racing towards what many see as the ultimate prize, artificial general intelligence. So what is AGI? Well, it's not like the AI we have now, which is really good at just one thing, like playing a game or spotting cats in photos. No, AGI is different. It's an AI that can understand, learn, and solve any problem a human can. It's got that flexible general intelligence. It is, without a doubt, the holy grail for a lot of researchers in this field. And the mere possibility that we could create AGI has split people into two totally opposite camps. I mean, there's really no middle ground here. On one side, you have the people who see AGI as the key to a golden age, curing every disease, ending poverty, you name it. But on the other side, you have people who are warning that it could be a massive existential risk, an uncontrollable power that could literally make humanity obsolete. So which is it? A golden age or the end? And honestly, I saw this quote on Reddit that just sums up this whole gamble perfectly. Someone wrote, "Sure, there's a risk we summon a demon, but there's also a non-zero chance we trigger a golden age." And that's it right there. The risk is absolutely terrifying, but the potential reward is so huge, so world-changing, that a lot of people think it's a race we have to run. And look, this isn't some distant sci-fi future we're talking about. The timelines for this stuff are getting shorter and shorter. The famous inventor Ray Kurzweil, he's been saying 2029 for a while now, but some experts are now saying it could be as early as 2026. Seriously. Whether they're right or not, the point is, this conversation is no longer theoretical. It's becoming incredibly urgent. Okay, so let's take a step back. How do we tie all of this together? The inequality, the companies trying not to be turkeys, the chatbot that went rogue, this crazy race to superintelligence. What's the common thread? Well, it all comes down to a really important idea, our socio-material future. I know it sounds a bit academic, but the idea is actually pretty simple. Sociomateriality just means that technology and society aren't two separate things. They're completely interwoven. You can't understand one without the other. This means the problems we see with AI, they're not just tech problems. They're not just about bad code. They're human problems. They're about our biased data, our values, and our own flaws. The tech shapes us, and we shape the tech. And this right here is really the main point of all this. The biggest challenge in this AI revolution isn't about writing better code or building faster chips. The real challenge is building smarter social structures around the tech. We're talking about the laws, the ethics, the global rules we need to make sure this incredibly powerful tool actually works for everyone. Which really leaves us with the one final massive question. Remember Tay? That chatbot went from zero to a PR disaster in just 16 hours. We're hearing that AGI could be here in just a few short years. Technology is moving at an exponential pace. So the question we all have to ask ourselves is, can we?
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. It really helps the channel grow. See you in the next video.